We have more details on the internal turmoil reportedly happening inside Philadelphia, including a new report that Fletcher Cox called out Jalen Hurts over his post-contract antics and personality. Plus, what do we do with Derrick Gunn's report that Big Dom has to control Nick Sirianni on the sideline to avoid fighting with players? Finally, A.J. Brown, he spoke on all of this in a way only he could. Buckle up. I'm Thomas Mott. This is The Thomas Mott Show. Okay, a lot has transpired over the past 24 hours that we have to get into, but it is worth noting that we found out today that both Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni will officially speak to the media for the first time since all this mess has come out at the NFL Combine next Tuesday afternoon. So, as always, sub to this channel because I'll be covering that in full depth on Tuesday afternoon, and I'm very curious to hear what they have to say. Okay, let's first start with the Craig Carton report and the follow-up response from him. We talked about that yesterday, about the serious internal issues inside Philadelphia. Then we'll get to A.J. Brown's response and the whole Big Dom babysitting Nick Sirianni report from Derrick Gunn. First, Carton has responded to a lot of blowback from both Adam Schefter and other media members that his report was completely made up when he tweeted, quote, "Eagles fans are funny. Tough guys for sure, but apparently also a bunch of snowflakes, whining all day about me saying I don't know what happened in Philadelphia. Didn't say what it was, just that I know what it is. Interesting offseason for sure, maybe even adding Saquon to replace Swift." Now, I expected nothing less from Craig Carton, as we talked about yesterday, the kind of person that he is, but basically acting all tough while giving us no new additional information, although the mention of Saquon did spark my interest a little bit. What I thought was fascinating, though, was Eagles sideline reporter, and yes, sometimes loudmouth, I've said it, Howard Eskin. He went on WIP today and explained exactly what Carton was talking about. Listen to this.
Okay, here's what I heard, what he was trying to imply. It's a total exaggeration. I mean, this is what happens in the world, and everybody starts reporting it like, oh yeah, it's just the world's coming to an end here. It was a total exaggeration. What has occurred in that situation, I believe, what he's trying to imply is Jalen Hurts, we know his personality's it's got to take a step up. I don't know how you change that. I mean, it was the same personality when they got to the Super Bowl, but when they're not playing well, you try to find reasons. So a few players have talked to Jalen Hurts about, hey, listen, you got to connect more. You got to be more emotional on the sidelines. You got to be more part of us. And a few players have done that. The one player that's probably more, I think the word demonstrative is probably too much of implying what's going on, was Fletcher Cox. Fletcher's a stern guy, and he was not happy with his emotion, but so other players were the same way. And he talked to him a little bit. Fletcher is the guy, and this is why this makes sense from what I've been told. Craig Carton said there's going to be I'll use the word prominent player that may not be with the team next year because of this. Well, Fletcher Cox has basically already said he's done. All right. And he said that he cleaned out his locker. He said that at the end of the year. So Craig's going to say, well, I told you a player wasn't coming back. It was not a fight. It was not a screaming match. It was not any of those things. And he's just one of the players that has talked to him, but he does it in I'll use the word sterner fashion. Come on, Jalen, you got to be more emotional, connect more with the guys. And other people from the team have talked to Jalen Hurts about that.
Okay, you guys know I'm not a huge Eskin fan, but he is their sideline reporter, and he is kind of a legend in Philadelphia, and so while he bloviates a lot, and I mean a lot, throughout his career, I think he's right on this. I think that is what Carton is referring to, that Fletcher Cox went to Jalen Hurts and kind of had a little powwow about Hurts' antics and overall personality post-contract. And this is really nothing new. Like, there have been plenty of rumors that there was something going on with Jalen's personality or lack thereof this past season. I don't see that as being up for debate anymore. What I think Eskin did well in that clip is explain that it isn't a big deal, though, going forward. Like, this happened. They had their discussion. The organization, as we talked about weeks ago, met with Jalen Hurts to make him aware that they need him to go ahead and be more of a better personality, a better teammate going forward, and we should expect a focused and fantastic Jalen Hurts next season. I think we can put that to bed and officially ignore Craig Carton going forward unless he gives us actual information on what he himself was referencing on that little random side note on his morning show. Now, personally, what shocked me more was the whole Derrick Gunn report from last night on Twitter. And if you didn't see this, here's what he said, quote, "According to sources," that's multiple sources, important for journalism, "Jalen big contract pulled in numerous direction on and off field, put him under a lot of pressure. He didn't handle well." But then he goes on to say, Big Dom suspended, controls Sirianni's emotions on sideline. In his absence, Nick gets in numerous arguments with players, coaches during games. Now that's big. Like, this sent shockwaves throughout Eagles Nation, throughout the entire NFL nation, as everybody who was already trying to struggle with the idea that Nick Sirianni needed to come back after, I guess, being the head coach in a terrible final collapse and also horrific adjustment to his play calling, this just wasn't a good look for Sirianni. And let's be honest, to have one of these old brass Eagle reporters who has very good connections inside the organization tweet this about both Jalen Hurts and Sirianni is really a bad look. First off, is Sirianni's emotions really that hard to keep in check? Like, is Big Dom really the glue that has to keep the Eagles together? And if he's not on the sideline, they're going to lose every single game? There's so many questions we need a lot more details on here. And let me just be very clear of how I read into this. I think it's a little bit bloviated, a little bit too much. Like, I don't believe by one bit that Big Dom is the only reason that Nick Sirianni is able to be a head coach. Like, sure, is he helping keep Nick Sirianni and probably other players and coaches in check, make sure their emotions don't run wild during games? Yes. Is him getting suspended after the 49ers game the main reason why the Eagles collapsed? No, I don't think so. Remember, we had multiple instances of silent altercations caught on camera, you're seeing them right now, before Big Dom was suspended, and the Eagles did win all of those games. So even if Derrick Gunn is right and the report is true, I don't think it's as big of a deal as we think. Like, Big Dom, sure, plays a part in keeping emotions in check. But Big Dom being there versus not being there is not the only reason that Nick Sirianni is yelling or not yelling, or the Eagles are winning or not winning. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't concern me. Like, this is still kind of a lot, and you're an NFL head coach, you should be an adult. And I criticize Nick Sirianni. I called for him to be fired after the season. It's bad to be reading this and continuing to have this come out, but at the same time, I think it's probably a little bit over-exaggerated. And let's be real, Derrick Gunn needs to get on camera and explain exactly what he meant by this tweet. What does concern me, though, is how Sirianni recovers from this report. Like, again, we all called for his job just a couple of months ago. To hear that he can't control his emotions on the sideline, regardless of how bad or good it actually is, it can't happen going forward. Like, he has got to be more of an adult. He has to grow up, especially if this is an actual problem that rubs players the wrong way. Still, though, you have to go glass half full for at least a little bit here and understand that Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman aren't idiots. They've won a Super Bowl in the past. They've built Super Bowl winning and Super Bowl caliber, locker rooms and cultures in the past. If Sirianni was that toxic, if he was like completely lost the locker room and no player respected him and all he did was yell and get into arguments, he wouldn't have come back this season. I know people like to say that he's just a mouthpiece and a puppet and that it's Howie Roseman's fault or Jeffrey Lurie's fault, and maybe that's true, but they would not keep him if it was really as bad as this report makes it seem. Now, I do think that D-Gun's whole point about Jalen Hurts being pulled in multiple directions following the Super Bowl loss and new contract, creating too much pressure on the young quarterback, is probably true, but honestly, it's nothing new. Remember Bleeding Green Nation? They covered this a January 21st article that basically said there are two versions of Jalen Hurts, the one the public sees and the one behind closed doors, the NovaCare complex that the Eagles protect, as they try to do with Carson Wentz. The public, well, some of the fan base, he's a leader. His teammates may not. Sources close to and around the team say Hurts should have been a better leader and is capable of being a better leader. He shuts himself off from others and defers to A.J. Brown, who has a great reputation among his teammates as a family guy and will hold himself and his teammates accountable. They would go on to add that, quote, one source in the team described Hurts as a good dude, who sometimes does not realize the times he's acting like a prima donna. Multiple sources close to and inside the Eagles confirm this. Teammates wanted to include him in functions. Hurts would wave them off. He's been described as detached, stoic, isolated, and unapproachable. Again, it's nothing new. Like, we've heard this. That clearly was an issue for Jalen Hurts, whether the Super Bowl loss weighed on him a little bit too much, the new contract, $255 million, gave him, a little bit extra jingle in his pocket, changed his personality around. That seems to be the case. But again, much like with the Big Dom thing, is it as bad as the tweet reads? Is Jalen Hurts a terrible person that all his teammates hate and he can never be a good leader and the Eagles are panicking about him? No. Does Jalen Hurts need to do a little bit of internal searching to figure out the best way to be a leader despite having a little bit more of a stoic personality? Yes, I think we can all say that and be very confident that that is a thing that needs to happen. Does this concern me? Sure. You're not getting reports about this for Patrick Mahomes or even guys like Josh Allen or Joe Burrow. You want Jalen Hurts to be in that category both on the football field and in the locker room with his teammates, but does it send massive alarm bells saying that, oh my gosh, we have the wrong guy or the Eagles are never going to get as far as we want them to because their quarterback is a mess? No, I don't think that's what we're reading right here. And let's be honest, the Eagle players themselves seem to agree with everything I just said based on all those post-Super Bowl interviews that we featured on this show week after week after week. They have both Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni's back, for the time being. And for me, that's at least good enough. If things get worse, we can revisit it, and we can call for more heads to roll and more people to be traded or fired. But as of right now, I think Philadelphia is going to be okay. They need to weather this really bad PR storm that has hit them from multiple angles over the past couple of days. It is worth noting that A.J. Brown's Twitter account, and side note, his whole Twitter situation is very odd. I'll explain that in a second. Did tweet today on this whole situation saying, quote, Philly media is so lame. It's literally something every day. And the fans believe the BS. They should start raising the prices of microphones and cameras because you people will say anything for views. I see why nobody likes us because we don't even like us. Hashtag reality TV. Now, I say this is A.J. Brown's Twitter account because a simple scroll back in time confirms that A.J. Brown did once use this to tweet. I mean, the followers, the people who follow him, even the tweets that he said, 6 or 7 months ago, it really was A.J. Brown. Like, this is 100% A.J. Brown's. However, a couple of weeks ago, someone tweeted from this account saying this is a fake A.J. Brown page. I'm just a fan. I'm not trying to get him in trouble with what I say. And it also quote tweeted Darius Slay saying that it wasn't AJ, saying, quote, tell him I will give him his page back for a signed jersey, please. But do we believe that AJ Brown no longer has control of this account? He's been hacked. Somebody's holding his account for ransom just to get a signed AJ Brown jersey back. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. And so, again, this is AJ Brown's Twitter account, but is it AJ Brown pretending like it's hacked so he can tweet whatever he wants without repercussions? Does somebody actually control it and AJ just doesn't care? Again, it'd be nice to have some more clarity on this whole situation. Now, we do know that AJ Brown did post to his social media because his Instagram has not been taken over by anybody, and he sent this story a couple of hours ago saying, that's not me, but he's cooking some for real. The little cat doing the little cooking thing there. So whether his Twitter account is officially him or not, he definitely has seen that tweet, is aware of the tweet, and definitely agrees with the aforementioned post. There's no denying that where there's smoke, there's fire, and clearly there has been a lot of smoke coming out of Philadelphia since they went on that horrible losing streak to end the season, followed by the playoff loss, meaning that there is some issues there. There is some truth. The question is 100% of what we're reading true? Is 80% true? Is it 3% true? 5% true? I don't know. I think it's a lot less dramatic than what the media makes it out to be, and I think Philadelphia's going to be okay. Do heads need to roll? Do you need to trade Hurts or trade A.J. Brown or call, a players-only meeting or fix what's going on with Nick Sirianni? I don't know. I don't think so. I think that they're going to be just fine. I think that they have fixed their internal issues. I think they're a lot less dramatic than we made them out to be, and Philadelphia will be okay. But to sit there and comment and say, Thomas, this is all made up, or you're just over-exaggerating, or this can't be true, sure, it might not all be true, but again, where there's smoke, there is fire, and there's definitely been smoke in Philadelphia, and we have to all acknowledge that. I will be honest, though, I don't want to toot my own horn, but the creation of this channel was to combat all of these different narratives that are out there, to combat Twitter and combat radio and combat, national TV and the Philadelphia Inquirer and newspapers. The goal of this channel is to take all of this noise. Again, there's been a lot of noise the past 24 hours. Condense it into a 10 to 15 minute video, give you exactly what's happening factually, and then give my opinion on it and what I truly believe. Whether this is true, that is true, I don't know. I'm not in the building. I can't officially say that sources have told me this or sources have told me that. I go on what other people have said. I try and summarize it for you guys and give you guys the best, most informative video possible, and I hope you guys appreciate that, and I think that's why this channel has had success to the point that it's at today. With that being said, there's plenty more stuff happening, and especially next week with the NFL Combine. You're going to get comments from Sirianni and Howie Roseman on everything that we talked about today, and I'm sure there'll be plenty more updates tomorrow. Be sure to subscribe, and make sure you guys ride or die here with all the latest Eagles news. Buckle up. This is what it's like being an Eagles fan. I'm Thomas Mott. This is The Thomas Mott Show.